Hi everybody, welcome to this video. It's part of the Junk Journal January series. My name is Jolene and I, alongside with my friend Lucy, co-facilitate a Facebook group called Live Art Journaling and Self-Development. Each week we have 2 live workshops, and the Junk Journal January has been part of January's workshops. If you want to join us, then just click the link below. Today I thought that we'd add some journal guardians to our junk journals that we are constructing. You're going to need some distress ink, a little bit of masking tape. You're going to need some paper, either watercolour paper or a good stock mixed media paper, some paint brushes, some cutting tools, some acrylic paint. You don't need to use Golden Brand. I'm just using those because they're what I like to use. A good Pritt stick is very useful for this. I like to use the Tombow range, but you could also use gloss medium or matte medium if you have a good one. You're going to need some magazines, some pages and pictures, and what you need to look out for firstly is some images of people with a good headshot on them. We're going to be constructing these guardians and we're going to do them using a theme of your choice. I love the theme of nature, and so what I have done is gathered a load of images also of nature, leaves, plants. I think I've also got a seascape here. Also, you'll find a printable on the Live Art Journaling page of some clothes. You can obviously also download lots of stencils of clothes from the internet. And when you have chosen your theme, it's a good idea, if you can, to find a little book that corresponds to that. This little book of wildflowers has got some brilliant names in it, and you'll see what that comes into play later on. I've also got a spray bottle here that is absolutely brilliant and pretty essential for the way that we're going to do our backgrounds. But of course you can do a background anyhow you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to construct the background onto which my journal guardians are going to appear. And I love using this technique of just putting some lines and areas of acrylic paint onto my page and then spraying with the water and allowing some drips to appear. I'm going to do this in several layers, making sure that I dry each layer. Using acrylic paints as opposed to watercolour paints to do this lovely drippy effect is the best bet. If you use watercolour, then the next layer that you put on top will obviously reignite and disperse across your page. What is absolutely beautiful about when this project is finished is these lovely drippy backgrounds look like forests in the distance behind the guardians. I absolutely love watching all these layers emerge and all the different patterns that go on underneath. Of course, you don't need to do your backgrounds like this. You could use any bit of paper that you have laying around, or perhaps a bit that you used as a wipe-off sheet. I just specifically wanted this kind of effect in my background. So the next step is the painstaking trouble of cutting out these silhouettes of these clothes. And as I said, if you go on the Facebook page and you head into the units and search out the Junk Journal January series, you will find these a file with these images on there. I'm going to take them and I'm going to use a little bit of masking tape to stick them down onto my various images of plants and flowers. putting that little bit of masking tape on just secures them while I'm cutting around them. And I'll carry on doing that for lots of different outfits. Essentially what we're doing is making some paper dolls. Once I'd cut these all out, I was looking at them and thinking how amazing it would be if I could actually buy these outfits. Okay, so now you need to go and find your images of people. They don't need to be the right size heads, and in fact, having sort of mismatched heads and bodies can be quite good fun. But you do need to be quite careful when you cut out the heads, because obviously if the neck is wider than the neckline of the dress, you do need to cut it in so that the neck matches up with the neckline of the shirt or the dress. You're going to see me do that in a minute. So this is one of these projects that when you start doing it, you kind of look at it and think, oh, this is not going to look great. But I promise you that the kind of less care that you put into it, the better, because it's really fun at the end to see how these develop. So this image that I've chosen, this head in the background, is kind of an easy one because the neck is hidden by her hair. So I can cut round the dress, cut straight into her hair, and I don't really need to do any shaping around the neck. The arms we will add later on, and indeed any legs that you need to add on. But for now, you're just placing some head images with the clothes. So you'll be able to see in a minute that when I attach this dress to this head, you can see that the neckline is far wider on the person than on the dress. So what I'm going to need to do is when I cut down beyond her ear and round to the neckline of the dress, I just cut in a little bit so that things match up. So there's always a moment during these videos where I kind of want to sing the praises of our Facebook group. Lucy and I are both mixed media artists. Lucy resides in Australia and I live in England. And we host very much a community Facebook group. Both of us are very invested in social development and in being part of everything that a community means, so support and creative thinking and brainstorming. We have a summer school every year, and as I said earlier, 2 live videos each week. And you just need to find the link below and click on it, and you will be accepted into the space as soon as we see your request. So here's my little people. There's me making them dance. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stick them onto that kind of funky background. And this is where you start looking at it and thinking, oh no, I've made this really childlike thing that doesn't look very good. But I promise you, the next stages and layers are what starts to build this up. Now, why do I think that we need journal guardians? Well, I kind of think that for me, my journal is a place where I invest all my vulnerable creative moments. And I like to think that these guardians are going to take care of my journal when I'm away from it. I wanted to use images of nature because to me nature is really important. and I decided to give these characters some crowns. So I'm just using some bits and pieces, some scraps left over from those nature pictures I picked out before, and I'm cutting some very rough crown shapes and hat shapes. So there's a spiky crown that goes on the man. There's just a very simple triangle shape that I put on the woman on the left, and then I make a sort of bowler hat, an upside down U shape for the other character. So now what I do is grab a tiny little bit of white paint, and because I don't have a paint holder at the moment, I'm just using the top of my image as my canvas, and I'm going to put some very, very basic shapes for the arms, legs and hands. So this kind of curvy dress, I just put two arcs either side of her as if her hands are behind her body. And then the woman, I just do these very, very sketchy hands. You're going to see me do them on this man as well. Really doesn't need to be complicated. As I said before, the kind of messier the better. And then the legs, just some very simple rectangles are going on these legs. You know what? These are never going to look like perfect people. These are meant to be a little bit quirky. I'm a great lover of Tisha Moore's work and of her kind of collage. So I decided once I'd made them that I really wanted them to have wings. So I take a little scrap of paper, a rectangle, I fold it in half, and then I cut a wing shape. And then when I obviously separate the paper, I've got two wings that I can just pop onto the shoulders of my characters. They're becoming quite the fae folk, I do think. So the next stage is quite important. Either take a black pen or a dark pencil, and you need to go around the separate elements. This just helps them pop out from the background. So I'm going around the hat shape separately, I'm going around the body shape, and then I go around the wings. Don't use too thick a pen. I think that would kind of make this a little bit too blocky. But just going around them with that black pen just to kind of pull them forward from that background. It's funny, whenever I'm making characters like this, I kind of, as I'm drawing them and filling them in, I'm imagining their lives. I'm imagining who they'd be friends with and perhaps the adventures that they might get up to. And certainly later on in the group, that's what we'll be doing. We'll be playing with these and perhaps writing their stories as they travel along with us. So I just use my guillotine to cut these out now. We want them to be the rectangles sort of around them. What we're actually going to do is put them onto some paper clips so that we can move them in and out of our journal. I like the idea of them being able to travel among our pieces. So now what I want you to do is take one of your acrylic paints, one of the colours that you used in the background, and just paint a very rough line all the way around the edge of your cards. One of the things that happens when you've got quite a chaotic background is it sort of loses itself and starts travelling outside the frame of the thing that you're making. When you put a nice frame around it, it contains all that madness, and as soon as I do that, I start to see the landscape in the back of my pieces. This woodland appears behind every single character, and I can imagine the sounds that are all around them. So I take a black pen, and please do wait until your paint is dry before you do this stage. Many a pen has been ruined by placing it onto paint. And I scribble round that blue border, just making a very, very rough border around that. Again, just helping that chaotic background to make sense. Quite often artists will say that things fade into the background, and these are all little tricks that help that happen. I'm now going to take my Distress ink and go around the edge and just use a kitchen cloth to buff it. So we are very nearly finished, and it's about time we name these characters. And this is why I recommend, if you can go to your local junk shop, secondhand store, thrift store, and say, for instance, you do your people based on birds, pick up a book on birds. Mine is based in nature and plants, so I've picked up a book on plants. And I found the names of some plants. I do put Distress ink around the first one, but I decide not to do that around the others. It doesn't really add anything to it. So I'm just pulling out some really funny names of flowers which kind of match these characters that I've created. It really does make me laugh. You can wait until you see the names. I hope you'll be laughing along with me. Okay, for those of you who haven't been making a junk journal, you'll see here that my junk journal pages are still loose. They're certainly not ready yet. We will be binding them at the end of the month. But I take some paper clips and I pop them onto my little journal guardians and slide them into my journal. And as I said, these characters will travel with me. When I create something, I can move them around. They're such good fun. I do hope that you will have a go, and make sure to join the Facebook group and post your pictures up when they're done. Have a really awesome day, and I look forward to speaking to you ever so soon.